I say Brian Moynihan was here earlier, Bank of America. Right. They're now paying a minimum wage of $20 an hour for every employee that's there. They do a lot of profit sharing back, $1,000 bonuses for almost the entire employee base.
Well, the financial system in our country has done pretty well. Who would have thought 10 years ago that the banks would be as strong as they are now? The banks are stronger than they've ever been in their history. J.P. Morgan just had record profits. Bank of America is doing very well. All the banks are doing pretty well. And I think that's filtering down into the global economy. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm Pollyannish. We do have some challenges.
But is that what you think companies need to be doing to address the inequality? Look, in some cases, it's what the Fed's done with quantitative easing that has built up the inequality. But does it need to be resolved by companies taking steps like that? And would you invest in companies that were doing that?
If I knew how to solve income inequality, I'd be in Iowa. Nobody really knows how to solve that problem. I do think, for example, solving literacy problems at the bottom would be helpful. I do think increasing the minimum wage is helpful. Mm-hmm. And I do think companies that worry about more than just shareholder return are probably the companies that are going to get more people buying their stocks in the end, and they're probably going to do better.
We need to match skill sets with people that are coming up. Obviously, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Private sector needs to help with that. We probably need to spend money on education more effectively. Where do we get the money from that? You don't like wealth taxes. It's never worked. Do we need more revenue? Do we need to reallocate the revenue we have right now? How would you do it?
Well, the tax revenues right now are probably a little bit lower than historically they've been. And I would say probably whoever is president next time will probably have to adjust taxes, be my guess. Nobody will say that right now. But I suspect there'll probably have to be some adjustment in taxes down the road because we don't have enough money to pay our expenses. The U.S. Treasury is running about a $1.3 trillion annual deficit now, and we have to deal with that. You can't keep running these deficits ad infinitum.
Unless you cut the spending.
You can cut spending, but
reallocate it.
It's easier in some ways to increase taxes than cut spending. In other words, it sounds like it should be the opposite, but sometimes it's easier to increase taxes because people don't notice it quite as quickly, and you do it down the road.
Can you get rid of some loopholes? You can would you raise the top marginal rate? It's hard to get enough money from just rich people. I mean, do you want to raise rates across the board?
There aren't enough rich people. I mean, if you took the money away from all the Forbes 400 people, that's not going to solve all your problem. The problem is the middle class, and the problem is taxing the middle class is very politically difficult to do. Right now, the average family of four in the United States, what do you think they make? $300,000, $400,000? How about $65,000 to $70,000?
Right.
That's the average family of four. That's the middle class. You want to tax those people? It's hard to do. If you tax people only above $250,000, you're taxing about 2% of the population. Just not enough of them.
So what do you think of the Democrats' plans, or some of the Democratic candidates, I should say, who have plans to spend much more on health insurance, on health care, on education and other issues?
Well, when you run for president, I've been in presidential campaigns, it's easy to say you're going to do this and that. Getting these things through the Ways and Means Committee and through the Senate Finance Committee is not that easy. It's not easy coming up with plans that are actually going to make a big difference. At the moment, I think the economy is in reasonably good shape, and I don't see anything on the horizon that's going to interrupt unless we have a war of some type that we don't anticipate. The president's speech here was, reasonably well received. And this is not his crowd, by and large, but I think it was reasonably well received. He read from the speech that was prepared in part by Larry Kudlow and a lot of advisors, and he obviously had input in it. And I think it was reasonably accurate from his point of view about what he's done. Other people would disagree, but I think he gave a statement here that was probably better received than the statement he gave 2 years ago.
All right, we got problems, but we got a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be optimistic about. And Trump is, when Andrew Ross Sorkin writes a piece that he's being well received in Davos, it has to be true. And he wrote that this morning. So it's a better reception this time than 2 years ago.
I was just in a reception with him, with lots of business people, global business people, and honestly, they all wanted their picture taken with him. Nobody was shunning him. So whether that was true a couple years ago, I don't know. But everybody seems to be happy with him. Now, obviously, this is the elite of the elite. So I'm not saying the average person on the street is as happy as maybe the elites are.
So those are the deplorables that are happy. There's 63 million of them. You're the ones that he's trying to win over, not the normal people.
Well, there's not enough of me. He's got to win over the average person.
Okay.
Can I ask you one more question just about China? You're so closely sourced in Washington. You have a really good idea of what's happening. When we talked to you in August, you said that you thought a Phase 1 trade deal would be signed within 4 months. That's about the time that we got it done. That was something that happened. Is there going to be a Phase 2 before the election?
No, there will not be, and the president himself has pretty much said that. Yeah. I think Phase 2 is much more complicated than Phase 1, and I think Phase 2, whoever is president of the United States, could not probably get a Phase 2 done in the next 6 months. It's too complicated. But I think a phase 2 can be done in the next 2 years or so. But it's a complicated thing because you got to change the way the economy is run in China. It's not that easy to do.
Better that we have a phase 1 and that tensions have died down?
The best thing about phase 1 is we'll have some impact that'll be positive, but the best thing is it reduces the global tension between China and the United States. And I was just in a meeting with the vice premier of China, and the global tensions are so much lower than they were before. So I think that's the best thing that happened because of phase 1.
And we're on a path. We're on a path towards
I think we're not fighting with each other as much. And whether we get phase 2 done in a year or two, I don't know. But we're not going to have the tensions that we had before on economic matters.
When you interview people on your show, you ask tough questions. You try to do that. You feel like you need to, right? So we asked Schwartzman, Trump or Bloomberg. Who would you pick, Trump or Bloomberg?
You know, as you get older, your hearing goes down.
What do you do when guests don't? What's your tact when guests don't answer questions that you ask? What do you try to do?
I go on to the next question.
How about Trump versus Biden? Who do you pick?
Pick for who's going to win or who's
good? Who would you vote for?
Well, I generally don't like to say who I'm going to vote for because I think it's important for people to maintain some privacy. I haven't seen all the facts yet, but there's no doubt that Joe Biden would be a very strong candidate, and Mike Bloomberg. And remember, I do some things on Bloomberg TV. I'm very partial to Mike, and I think he'd be a strong candidate. So would Biden. I think unfortunately, there's no private equity person running for president right now, and that's a big problem that people in Iowa are commenting on.
And that person will make sure your carried interest doesn't go away. Got it, David. Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot. I don't actually.
One issue voter.
I don't collect any carried interest anymore, but okay, I understand.
I don't get it. All right.
David, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Can I come on your show sometime?
Absolutely.
Liar.
Tomorrow.
He has a live audience.
I can tape it today.
Anytime you want.
I'm going to I'll send you my email.
All right, I can do it today. I got a camera here.